Goal number 8 is to develop a global partnership for development. Okay, so that we've gone over all of the goals, and some of us have a bit more experience in and a background than others. So Steve was going to talk a little bit about
goal number 7, which says,
just wanted to say a couple of things to start to wrap this up. So some other points that I just wanted to make sure that I brought home was something that, this is something going back to the education, and education is power. So I said that the African countries are making major developments in primary education, and so that's a great step. However, they're also making slight decrease in the amount of people that are going on to post-secondary education like college and university. So I think that definitely needs to change, because like we were saying about, you definitely run into these barriers if you finished secondary school, and the cost of going on to a further post-secondary school is like, 10 times more expensive. You're paying the same price to go to university here as I do in Canada, and that's not just. So that's something that I can see a direct reason of why this organization, Education is Power, is needed to help with that kind of, help provide those kind of opportunities. So for sure, about developing talents is a really important thing, and you can also, when you go to school, like Steve said, it's a good place to learn about what your talents are. Of course, we're not all going to be professional soccer players and things like that. So for the majority of people, going on to a higher level of education really does open up a lot more opportunities. Whether it's maybe, it doesn't have to be university, it could be going to a mechanic school, learning a trade or apprentice, but having something to push you on past high school. So I think that we need to remember about the importance of that, and I'm really hoping that in the future that Kenya and other countries will be able to have more of those opportunities after high school. But one other thing that I wanted to say about that was, I met someone in Kenya who told me about this too, who's going to college right now, is that he also sees it as maybe a problem of people here not sure if they should invest that much money into the education. Perhaps they have some money to invest into it, but what's better when you think about in the short term, if your dad says that he could get you a new picky, or you could go to college for, what do you think? Some people, I don't know, what do you guys think? That picky looks pretty nice. It's pretty shiny, and you can start using it right away, but then what happens? The picky breaks. You don't have it anymore. Uh-oh. So that the education is going to stay with you. And then you can buy a picky later on once you get a job too. So that's something that I wanted to touch on there too, is just not only is it the lack of opportunity to afford it, but there's also a level of not sure whether the commitment is there to invest. Like, I'm going to sell my cow for my kid to be able to go on to finish his school. I'm not sure if that is all together there. So I've kind of had conversations with different people about this. It's another perspective to give you guys to think about that. And yes, it is important to move on to education. Are we committed to do it? And so it's going to take commitment from poorer countries. Sorry to say it like that, but it's also going to take help from wealthier countries. So there's two sides to it, and that's how I see it. So we're trying to have the help coming, but also having the commitment towards it as well. So that's something important to think about. And so another thing I just wanted to say is this program, Education as Power, is encouraging, and it's just for people that are wanting to stay in their own country, okay? So this is not made as a getaway, like, oh, you're going to go study in Canada, and because if we had paid for you to study in Canada, we could pay for 10 people to study in Kenya. And then what's the effect for Kenya when someone goes to study in Canada? There's a good chance they're going to stay there, maybe. I'm sure there's lots of good chance they're going to come back too, but we don't really know. So I wanted to say, like, just to be proud of where you come from, because you have a beautiful country and there's very many resources here. And you could be in a position that's just the same as another higher country that has more money right now, because with the amount of resources that are here. So I just wanted to say that, to be proud of where you come from, and then you'll be able to help your communities a lot more. So those are the kind of people we're trying to help. Education is power. So I think that we've kind of talked about a lot of going over all the goals, and people touched on all these points. So if there's no other questions or things we can add, we can move in towards doing the stand-up pledge.
With goal 1 all together. And goal 2. Achieve universal primary education. Goal 3. Promote gender equality and empowerment. Goal 4. Reduce child mortality. Goal 5. Improve maternal health. Goal 6. Combat HIV/AIDS and hepatitis. Goal 7. Ensure environmental sustainability. And goal 8. Develop and promote partnerships for development. Good. So, David's going to lead us on how we're going to say the pledge.
Yeah. So once I ask you to stand up, that's a way of showing that you're supporting it, and then we're going to read over this pledge. So we also need to try and do some kind of a count as the number of people that are in here. So would anybody like to volunteer to try and do a rough count while we're... I'm going to ask... Could I ask you all, please, to stand up against poverty and inequality now? I ask you all to please stand up. All right, millions of people around the world on this symbolic day, the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, to show our commitment to the fight against poverty and inequality. We are standing because we refuse to accept more excuses in a world where 50,000 people die every day as a result of extreme poverty, and the gap between the rich and the poor is getting bigger and bigger. I'm going to carry this on to, you can continue with the next part, so it starts right here. Yeah.
We are standing because we want our leaders to honor their promises to meet the Millennium Development Goals. And we ask them to exceed these goals. We join in solidarity with people from over 100 countries to speak out and say to the leaders of the wealthy countries, we urge you to keep your promises on poverty, debt cancellation, more and better aid, trade, justice, and gender equality. To the leaders of poorer countries, Make it your first responsibility to save the lives of your poorest citizens. We ask you to tackle inequality, to be accountable to your people, to govern fairly and justly, to fight corruption, and to fulfill human rights. Somebody else want to continue?
Yes. And every day we will stand and speak out against poverty. We will continue to fight against poverty and inequality, and to hold our leaders to their promises. We are asking not for charity but for justice. We are millions of voices standing in solidarity to say, no more excuses. Make poverty very
Inequality.
Kimende region, looking out on Matathia, Kijabi, looking out onto the Great Rift Valley of Kenya. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so we've just been to 3 schools and we've had about 830 people stand up so far, and we've got 2 more schools to go. Another secondary, which is called Bawini, and then after Bawini, Matathia Primary School. Yeah, and then we'll be well up over 1,000 people for standing up for the Millennium Campaign.
Alright, goal number 1, eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Alright, and goal number 2, achieve universal primary education. Alright, goal number 3, promote gender equality and empower women. Goal number 4, reduce child mortality. Goal number 5, improve maternal health. Goal number 6, combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases.